Hello, my name is CJ, and today we're talking about pop culture. But not only are we talking about pop culture, but we're talking about my favorite part of pop culture, special effects. Without special effects, you have no Death Star explosion. Therefore, no Star Wars. Without special effects, you have no infamous T-Rex in the Jurassic Park. Without special effects, you have no Avatar at all. Special effects have been a huge part of the creation of not just the wonderful media that makes up pop culture, but I dare say the special effects have a big part of creating pop culture as a whole. Not just because of its place in Hollywood, not just because it's in every movie and TV show you see, because without it, filmmakers, animators, and artists would have a lot more trouble making their worlds come to life. But what do you mean by special effects? Am I talking about the green screen? Am I talking about the dreaded CGI? The computer-generated images that everyone hates or doesn't know exist because they're so well hidden? Maybe I'm talking about compositing and things that aren't really there. Well, to answer your questions, yes, I'm talking about that and much, much more. What is special effects? The definition for special effects in the dictionary is an illusion created for movies and televisions by props, camera works, computers, graphics, etc. So what I'm addressing here is simply anything you see on screen that isn't really there is a special effect. Something the filmmakers couldn't actually have on set due to its impracticality or the safety of its crew, or something that simply doesn't exist. How does Blade Runner show a futuristic city when there is no such thing? So, therefore, special effects have existed since the invention of the camera. In fact, I dare say the invention of the movie itself is a special effect in its own way. When you're watching a film, it's not really there. You can't reach out into the screen and find actors, a set. It's an illusion. How this connects to pop culture feels evident. Without special effects, you don't have movies. You can't have TV shows. You can't have 3D animation. This means no Pixar, no Marvel Cinematic Universe, no westerns, no horror films, nothing to influence the visual market other than plays and printed images. We have to thank some amazing artists for this. Without them, the side of pop culture would be non-existent. The history of special effects is a long and convoluted one, full of artists who paved the way for special effects artists today. But the guy who kicked it all off is named
Marie-Georges Jean Méliès.
Was originally an illusionist or a magician, but then went on to film, becoming one of the most influential filmmakers of his time. Do you remember the movie Hugo? Yeah, Ben Kingsley played Georges in that film. Georges used his knowledge of the illusion to create amazing special effects, such as substitution splices, multiple exposures, time-lapse photography, dissolves, and hand-painted color. This may not feel revolutionary today. In fact, you can do all those effects on your phone right now. But these were in the beginnings of great things. His films not only showed off the first special effects, but created what would eventually become the genre of sci-fi. He also ended up being the first to use miniatures in his film. Miniatures would go on to become the core of visual effects for that time, and to this day is one of the best ways to make a realistic effect. Let's move on to Star Wars. Star Wars was the beginning of the true special effects revolution. The film made use of several amazing models. On top of that, was one of the first films to use a blue screen. Let's pose a question. How do you key out a blue screen without a computer? Well, the wonderful Pedro Vallejos invented a method of exposing film without exposing the blue color, allowing to make a hole in the film where your blue screen element should be, then allowing compositors to stack on film on top of each other, efficiently removing the blue screen. Well, efficient is a strong word, so there is an even more ingenious way to remove backgrounds. Used in the film Mary Poppins, the same technique was applied, but instead of blue, it was a specific type of color shined on a black wall. This gave the compositors a perfect key. This was the beginning of a lot of special effects, allowing filmmakers way more options when it comes to creating their art. That's right, you see that on your screen? The blueprint of the Death Star. Now, this wasn't the first use of CGI. The first use of CGI was in a film called Westworld, which to this day, I cannot tell you what it's about. What I can tell you, though, is that CGI would go on to become the filmmaker's best friend when it comes to special effects. Which brings us to Tron. Now, Tron is not a good movie, but it was the first movie to ever have a majority of the movie be CGI. This broke new grounds for special effects. Gone were the days of miniatures and sets, and in were the days of cool robots and blood-chilling cats. Well, sort of. At this point, CGI was in its infancy, but Tron wasn't the first to take from the digital world. A movie called Young Sherlock Holmes did something revolutionary and created the very first fully CGI character. The guys who were behind the effects were also behind what would eventually become Pixar, so that's neat. Now, entire characters could be made CGI, inspiring many filmmakers and artists to dream big when it comes to the characters. Bringing us to the special effect titan that is Avatar. Avatar brought us not only some of the most amazing CGI characters, but also pushed the industry to create motion capture and facial capture technology, allowing real actors to give very real performances, allowing VFX artists to take that data and breathe life into these CGI characters. More or less, that has brought us to the present day. Motion capture is the key to making CGI characters. Thanks to CGI and green screen, no one actually ever has to set foot on set, and the old ways of special effects are still peeking through time, proving they too are just as good as the computers. But what does this have to do with anything really? So almost every film has special effects. But what does that have to do with people? And most of all, what does that have to do with pop culture? Well, allow me to give you a small example. It's 1978. You're in a theater watching the first Superman movie. You have the whole gang there. You have your popcorn, your hot dog, your Coca-Cola drink with the cocaine in it. Not because its company puts cocaine in the drink, but because it's the 70s. You just saw Superman take flight with Lois on his arm, totally rejecting the laws of physics. As they fly holding hands now, this is a very special scene, chocked full of special effects. In fact, it's a very special scene for the time. But wait! Then Superman lands and lets Lois down. They say their awkward but sweet goodbyes, and Superman flies off. After all that, we are left to believe the magic of the night is over. But then a knock on the door is heard. Without the camera cutting from the last shot of Superman, the door opens and it's none other than the mild-mannered Clark Kent. Superman's alter ego is revealed, leaving the brains of the audience swirling in wonderment, trying to think of how not just Superman went back around to the door so quick, but how the filmmakers did it without cutting. But with all that aside now, you and the audience believes in Superman, that he is tangible and real. Instead of your mind rushing to think of how the filmmakers did it, you simply accept that Superman has amazing abilities and could of course do something so amazing, thus proving the effect did its job. See, that's the cultural effect of special effects. It doesn't make up what you love about movies. No, that's the job of writers. But it solidifies what makes the characters and stories great. What the filmmakers did in Superman was simple. They took a projector and projected a pre-recorded take of Christopher Reeves onto a screen on set that Margaret Kidder waved to and interacted with. But then, had Christopher Reeves actually come on set? But see, it's more than how the trick is done. It's about what it does for the story. It shows the many abilities of Superman. It shows his speed. It shows his almost godlike ability to basically be everywhere. Now that's the importance of visual effects, creating storytelling in a spectacular way. If Superman had to tell Lois that he could do something like that, it would have taken him like an extra 3 minutes of dialogue. It wouldn't have been any fun either. It would have been just talking, as where now they can tell the story in under 30 seconds in a much more entertaining way. The way it changes pop culture is the way it changes the stories told within it, allowing for smoother, faster, and overall entertaining stories. Now, we have the problem with special effects. Like everything in life, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. In the past 10 years, we've seen a boom in the use of CGI and VFX. Some movies take it as far as to have the only real things in the film are the actors themselves, which isn't inherently bad. If you're making a movie where your special effects are the integral part of the movie, what I'm getting at here, if I'm getting at anything at all, is that movies are using special effects where they don't need them. Instead of building sets, they just put down a green screen. Instead of making costumes, they just CGI them in. Instead of making props, they just comp one in. We see an unnecessary amount of more computer-related effects than of practical special effects like miniatures and makeup. And I think this causes distrust amongst casual viewers of these movies. The best special effects are ones you can never notice, so that the viewer can stay focused on the story. But if you notice bad CGI, but it pulls you out of what the story is trying to say, and then it hurts the film overall. The most recent offender of this, I would say, is the film Justice League, pre-Snyder Cut, of course, and Black Panther. It only makes sense that the superhero genre would have some of the worst special effects, because in the end, it's been the driving force of some of the most amazing VFX, so I feel less bad pointing this out. But you see climactic scenes ruined by CGI in Black Panther. You see the beginning part of the movie that's supposed to be the beginning of a great adventure, then it decides to disgust you. These movies are not bad movies. Well, depends on who you ask about Justice League. But their CGI and special effects took the audience out of what could have been a good story. With that said, I would like to talk about great CGI put in bad light because of their bad movies. When a movie is bad, usually people have a lot to say about them, but there is always one universal criticism, and that's their special effects. Take Cats, for example. Horrible in every way. It makes your skin crawl. It has a horrible story. It was a mess of characters. Taylor Swift was only in it for like 2 seconds. And on top of all that, the critics said the CGI is horrible. But was it? As a VFX artist myself, the effects in the movie are groundbreaking. It took someone probably a solid 2 years to refine those effects. It took them so long, in fact, that they weren't finished even after the movie was made. Other films like this are The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Star Wars Episode 1, I, Frankenstein, Jupiter Ascending, Pompeii, The Golden Compass, Battleship, Aragon. And I know those are bad movies because I bet some of you didn't even know about half of them. I bring this up not to bring some movies down, but to show you all that you should appreciate the effect, even though it's in a bad movie. Now, as we near the end of my presentation, I'm required to talk about where special effects are going and what we are going to see in the next few years. This is undoubtedly my favorite part of this video. I've gotten to see, in my lifetime, the greatest effects that has ever been on the screen, ever. Instead of using green screen, filmmakers are using devices like the Volume, a massive LED screen putting in real time the view that will be there in the end product. This allows actors to act while simultaneously being lit by the LED lights. This saves VFX artists hours of time in post-production because they don't have to integrate the real footage with the illusion. You've probably already seen this tech without even knowing it in the show The Mandalorian. Not to mention how good VFX artists have gotten to making humans. Humans' anatomy is by far the most complicated anatomy on Earth. Therefore, making it is super difficult and is super hard to replicate on screen. But thanks to the wonderful program called Deepfake that trains a computer to paint 2 faces, then when the computer gets really good at painting those faces, it crosses the wires, allowing the computer to paint one face on the other perfectly. Remember Justice League? Well, someone fixed it in their home using a simple deepfake. All these are really cool, but by far my favorite part of special effects future is how easy it is to become for an average person to get into and making their own really cool stuff for free. Not only is the tech getting better every week at this point, but it's for free. A perfect example of this is a program called Blender. Blender is a 3D program that allows you to make your own CGI for free. And not only is it a fantastic program for someone on no budget, it's so good it's even being used in Hollywood level movies. Not to mention Deepfake is a free program as well. In conclusion, special effects has a special place in all of our hearts, whether you know it or not. The industry is going to many cool places, not just in the future, but also back to the past. Miniatures and practical effects are making a comeback, and I can't wait to see where people go with them. Now I want to ask you what you guys think. My question to you guys are, what is your favorite special effect? What is your least favorite special effect? And for good measure, what do you think about the use of deepfakes and to bring back actors who have passed away with special effects? Thank you, and thank you for listening. Hope you all learned something. Have a good day.